You meet people on the worst day of their lives, when the roof is gone.
Can you imagine a homeowner having to go through this all by themselves, have a spreadsheet, and have it about 20 to 25 pages long of everything they lost?
There was a disaster, where there was a flood or a roof flew off. I wouldn't have known, like, oh, I need to call public adjuster. The first instinct that I think most humans will have is, let me call my insurance company immediately. And that's when they immediately get sucked into that insurance web.
Do you not realize what you did? You're taking away the right of a homeowner to be able to have representation to fight the insurance company.
It's evil. Would you say the game is rigged?
To a certain degree, yes. You're gonna end up having to find that in the next few years, it's gonna...
Most homeowners think paying a premium buys them safety. But when the roof blows off, you usually just buy yourself a fight. Wendi Gabriel is a public adjuster, the advocate licensed to fight for you, not the insurance company. A leader on the board of FAPIA, she has spent over a decade organizing the chaos of the insurance industry. Now she's bringing that expertise to her brand new firm, Claim Pro Services. She is the advocate you need in the eye of the storm. This is Wendi Gabriel. Quick interruption. If you are enjoying this conversation and finding value in these stories, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video right now. It's the best way to support the show because it genuinely helps us continue to produce high-quality episodes and ensure we can keep bringing you meaningful content. I appreciate you watching. Enjoy the rest of the episode. We pay insurance premiums for 20 years thinking we are buying safety. But you meet people on the worst day of their lives, when the roof is gone. When the smoke clears, what is the biggest shock homeowners face when they realize what their policy actually says?
That's a little complicated because it doesn't start when the claim starts. Believe it or not, it starts when the agent is like getting the claim, the policy for the homeowner. You got to have a really good agent that's going to explain to you. Let's say that, you get a homeowner's policy quote, and it's a little too high and you want it to be scaled back maybe for discounts or a cheaper price. You don't really know what that cheaper policy is going to cover, meaning there could be exclusions on the policy. There could be caps on it, meaning like water caps. If, policies back in the day, they used to cover for the whole extent of like whatever the policy, if it was like a $30,000 loss. In policies these days, you're finding that there's a $10,000 water cap, meaning if you have anything that happens where it's a drastic water damage, let's say your garbage disposal goes out and your whole entire kitchen, the lower cabinets are damaged, you have a $10,000 water cap, regardless whether your damage is over that $10,000 amount to recover it.
So would you say that that peace of mind is a myth?
It is. I think a lot of homeowners, when they get their renewals with their insurance company, are not paying attention, and there's added exclusions in that policy, and every homeowner should look at their policy when their renewals are coming out.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's like you don't know what you don't know. But when panic strikes, you're kind of like, well, ooh, what do I do? Especially for people where if this is the first disaster in their lives, in their homes. You've seen the panic up close. When a disaster strikes, human nature is to clean up the mess immediately. Why is that usually the biggest financial mistake a family can make before calling someone like you?
If you don't know how to navigate and fight the insurance company, it's going to be a little bit difficult. First of all, if you discard everything that's out of like you got your whole house out, the problem is they want photos, documentation, video, and anything else that can show what the loss did and what it damaged. They're going to want all that backup before they even open coverage for a claim. And the biggest mistake is if a homeowner does and guts out that whole kitchen, let's say it's in the kitchen, right? They gut it all out. What do they have to prove to the insurance company that in actuality was what happened.
I would imagine that for the average Joe, that what you do, your profession is unbeknownst to them. Like
Right.
before I met you, I never heard of a public adjuster.
Mhm.
I'm not a homeowner, and so I haven't had to be in that situation. Luckily, I haven't had a situation where there was a disaster, where there was a flood or a roof flew off.
Right.
But I wouldn't have known, like, oh, I need to call public adjuster. The first instinct that I think most humans will have is, let me call my insurance company immediately.
Mhm.
And that's when they immediately get sucked into that insurance web of the insurance giants. How does the everyday homeowner that's watching know, well, there's a public adjuster out there, that's the person they need to call who's going to be on their side, rather than calling the insurance, who's likely going to give them the short end of the stick?
There's always bad characters in every industry, right? There's bad GCs, there's bad plumbers. I mean, you can go on and on. Bad cops and everything, right? Um, some of those bad characters put a stigma on our industry, and we find that a lot of those characters are not involved with associations. Like, I'm a member of Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters, and when those deficiencies come up and they're brought to our attention, we find out that a lot of them are non-FAPIA members. And what we've been trying to do is, when we find out these bad characters in our industry, we actually school them ourselves. We try to contact them, the industry, and let them know, hey, this isn't a good thing to do. You need to stay in compliant. You need to stay in regulation. There's certain ethics that you have to follow when you're a public insurance adjuster. And then most of the time, the feedback that we get is they appreciate us letting them know what they should be doing in that industry.
But how do you raise the awareness that you guys exist to homeowners who don't know what a public adjuster is?
Social media, networking, letting the people that you do network with, if they find themselves in situations where they're having a conversation and their friends, colleagues, coworkers are explaining to them that they woke up with a huge headache, they've been fighting with their insurance company, they don't feel like they're being heard, they're not being paid correctly for a claim.
Yeah.
That's when the people that you network with, they come to mind and they're like, oh my God, I remember this, Wendi Gabriel I met. And I remember she said that she advocates for homeowners. Let me have you contact her. She might be able to help you.
Could you take us back to one of those stories, one of those times, a family that really just stuck in your head where they had a disaster? Bring us to that day. What happened? Was it something where you turned devastation into triumph? And what was the devastation that that family actually had?
This past year, we helped a client that was impacted by Hurricane Helene and Milton. And it wasn't just the homeowners, it was homeowners and flood, which involves FEMA. Everything was completely destroyed. They had up to, like the wall behind me, between the couch and the picture on the wall, right? The wall came up between halfway point.
Wow, it's a
They
lot.
had to gut everything out, drywall wise, all the way up to 6 feet, or at least up to 4 or 5 feet. So everything had to be cut out. Anything behind the wall had to be cut out. All their belongings that they were not able to elevate was destroyed. We got in there and we were notified that they needed help. We got the documentation that they needed. We got the photos that they needed. I mean, really, that even involves more, right? Because you have inventory that you lost, meaning furniture, books, artwork, all that. It all has to be on a spreadsheet and itemized, and how much the dollar amount is. Can you imagine a homeowner having to go through this all by themselves, have a spreadsheet, and have it about 20 to 25 pages long of everything they lost, if they can even remember everything they lost?
Yeah, it's itemizing your life, itemizing your home. People are not going to be too logical during that period because they're so emotional, they're so devastated, they're so
Yes.
scared, they're
Yep.
lost.
So going back to that story, The gentleman was really even keeled. He could go through the process and be very, like, this is what we need to do, very calm. The wife, and they were a young couple, she was just so devastated. She had lost everything. A couple times that when I spoke with her, my heart was just breaking for her, because you could tell, like, you could hear the tension in her, voice, and she'd be almost crying. And they actually had to fire the first flood carrier adjuster because he was non-responsive. We got her another flood carrier, and after we were able to get that flood carrier, it was able to move forward and get them the money. But the whole process just stressed her out. Every time I spoke with her, she was just so upset, and all I could do was just try to reassure her that we were on the right path and we would get her the money in the long run.
You get sucked into that emotion yourself,
Absolutely.
right?
It's gut wrenching.
You take it home with you,
Right.
you probably lose sleep sometimes over this, or you wonder, like, what could I have done more to help this family? What could I have done to alleviate their pain? It becomes personal, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You sit on the board of FAPIA, Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters.
Yes.
You are fighting billion-dollar insurance giants. Is the system just broken, or is it actually designed to wear people down until they settle for less?
Look at the big picture of everything. If you peel back the layers like an onion, right? You have the insurance carriers that want to keep all the premium. They don't want to pay out a just amount when a person has a flood. The insurance carrier only wants to pay the minimum on a loss. So what happens is you have to look at the bigger picture, right? You have insurance carriers, you have the legislation, you have the Office of Insurance Regulators. And, we just came up with something that was brought to our attention at FAPIA, right? There was a new endorsement that was introduced to a Florida policy that just hit this year for the renewal. And it was an anti-public adjuster endorsement. The only way that that endorsement can get into that policy is through the Office of Insurance Regulators. And we, as an industry from FAPIA, had to call somebody at the Office of Insurance Regulators and say, do you not realize what you did? You're taking away the right of a homeowner to be able to have representation to fight the insurance company if the loss is not a fair settlement. So you just took one of the homeowner's rights away by putting the anti-public adjuster endorsement in there. Why is the public adjuster the only one being stood out alone and saying you can't hire this person?
It's evil.
Truly.
It's truly evil. It's cruel. Is money really the root of all this evil, of this cruelness?
Yep.
So that's what it boils down to, right?
Yep.
Profit over people.
Yep. Let's even dig deeper right into this with my industry. We're finding a lot of people, because I'm on the executive board for FAPIA, the Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. We have people that have been in the industry for years, and because of all the changes that have occurred in the last few years in the legislation, they're retiring or they're just totally walking away from the industry. So there's another devastation for homeowners. People that have the expertise, that have done it for years, are just walking away.
So would you say the game is rigged?
To a certain degree, yes. You're going to end up having to find that in the next few years, it's going to take a really big devastation, meaning weather related, for legislation to change so that it's more protecting the homeowner instead of protecting the insurance carriers.
But haven't we, not just in Florida, where you do your work, the entire United States, haven't we had enough disasters? How big does a disaster have to be? I mean, look at Katrina, look at all these hurricanes, floods. What really has to happen? Do you really believe that we're one disaster away, a giant disaster away from legislators to wake up and say, okay, we're going to change it for the benefit of these homeowners and to make the lives of public adjusters like yourself easier?
I don't have the answers right now. I think if if you're a homeowner that's out there that has had the absolute worst experience fighting their insurance company, when the legislations kick in and they invite people to come up and talk to the people that are making the laws in the state of Florida, I highly recommend people find out when that is. And if they have a voice and they want to be heard, that's the time when they should be heard.
Yeah, because it's about not just self-preservation, protecting their family, protecting their home, protecting their life.
And you can have the insurance company representatives go in front of the legislation all they want, right?
Right.
But if you have a homeowner that has a gut-wrenching experience, they go up there and they give it a name, a face, and a story, and tell them exactly what happened and what the insurance company did, that's going to be like amazing.
Yeah, it's like testifying in court, it's a witness right there in flesh and blood. It's got
Yep.
a lot of value, a lot of power.
Yep. And they're going to, the people behind these big, podiums or, where they sit at the legislation, right? They're going to have to really think about how is this going to affect, if this has affected one homeowner, how many other homeowners are having the same experience?
I want to talk about you, Wendy. After 12 years leading operations at Triumph Consulting, you did something scary. You just launched your own firm, Claim Pro Services, last month.
Mm-hmm.
Why now? What was the moment where you said, I'm done building someone else's dream. I need to build mine?
I was finding that the firms that I was at were walking away and not helping the homeowner. I could walk away from some if I felt like I was taking too much money away from them. I would just be upfront and honest with them, right? But if I have an 80-year-old lady that just like in devastation, doesn't know what to do, needs a little bit of help with navigating through the process of the claim, I would much rather take a less amount of a commission and help her through. Meaning, like instead of 20%, which is what our normal commission base is, I would cut it down to 10% so that I'm only take a little bit of money to help her. And I would get them through the process. And that actually would alleviate some stress on her, because I've had a couple people where they're in their 80s and they're like, what do I do? How do I do this? I don't have time for this,
Right.
And I want to still be able to help them. I'm not in it to make myself rich. I'm here to honestly advocate for the homeowner.
What led you to this industry altogether? Why public adjusting? Why not all the other thousands of professions? What was the catalyst? What was that like start? What happened to you in your life and in your career?
I had just moved up from Key West, and honestly, I had applied for a data entry job. It was not just data entry. But I was intrigued and I was curious. That's what kind of helped me launch into that industry. I started doing data entry and, doing email replies. And then I saw the stack of, different replies, standard templates that we would send to the insurance company. I was like, I got involved with BNI networking.
And for someone who doesn't know what BNI is, what does that stand for?
Business Networking International. BNI is a business networking development that helps you network within not just your area, meaning like Oakland Park, Pompano Beach. It actually will network within internationally if you want to.
Yeah, and I know they have chapters all over the world, and
Yeah.
it's like one seat per profession. Like if
Yeah.
you're in a chapter, there could only be one public adjuster, there could only be one personal injury attorney, so on and so forth. So it essentially locks out the competition. I do know that this is not what you always have done. I was stalking your background, and I found this fascinating. You spent 7 years in operations at UPS.
Yes.
Managing 50 drivers every morning. That is high stress logistics. How did managing that chaos prepare you for the chaos of a hurricane zone?
Well, it was up in Michigan, and Michigan doesn't have hurricanes, but they do get a lot of our flights used to be delayed due to fog. And so when people were looking for those next day air packages, they would get delayed. And I would oversee making sure the boards at night that the drivers carry would be uploaded at night, all their delivery information. And then it would be reconfigured in the morning for all their It's all in there, each stop that they have on their route.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure it's in there right for them. And then I would make sure if any communication came through the 1-800 number to our specific area, if there was a missed delivery, um, if they had a complaint about the driver on how the delivery was left, I would have to go to that driver, get an answer, and then answer back to that client after the driver's left. But I worked there from like 7 a.m. to like 11:30 every day.
You've got a lot of grit.
Yeah.
A lot of grit. And I can just tell just by speaking to you, you bring that grit every day to everything you do. What do you say to somebody on really finding who they are, their true north in terms of choosing their career or shifting careers?
I think a lot of people are afraid to step out of their comfort zone. And one book that I particularly got, it's from a top person that I'm getting involved with called The Power of Networking. She just put out a book and it's called Show Up Scared.
Show up scared.
So why not? Step out of that comfort zone, show up scared, and you never know what you might learn.
Yeah. Fear was and still is a good thing to have. It helped us in caveman times to survive. It helps us now. It's the fire that gets lit under our behinds that tells us you need to be a bit paranoid because you might not have your job tomorrow. You might not have your business tomorrow. Stay on top of everything. But also at the same time, don't drive yourself crazy to a point where you need to go to the mental institution. Right?
No, you don't want to go there.
Construction and insurance are historically male-dominated industries. Yet, here you are, president of Kiwanis, FAPIA board, running your own firm. Have you had to fight harder to be heard in those rooms because you are a woman? And how do you handle it when you are underestimated?
I still think there's a stigma out there that women aren't as smart as men when it comes to construction. We've definitely had to fight to be seen and heard. I was talking to Karen, who is a past president of FAPIA, Florida Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. We're very good friends. It took her a lot to get to the table and to be able to be seen and heard. And I feel like she actually set the example for me to be able to step into where I'm now on the executive board for FAPIA, and I'm hoping that I can be seen and heard also. I feel like she laid the groundwork for me.
And you think her being a female is what definitely created those difficulties in her climb upward?
Yeah, they weren't taking her serious.
And what is Kiwanis?
Kiwanis is an international group. We help underprivileged and homeless kids, not just locally here, but globally. One of their sayings is one community, one child at a time.
Where do you get this passion from to helping the community?
For me, honestly, I always wanted to be a parent. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for me, but I feel like this is my way of impacting the community for someone that didn't have children. And I feel like I've seen the needs of the kids in the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. They're cutting back their lunches or their breakfasts. You never want a kid going hungry. So what we do at the Kiwanis Club of Pompano Beach that I'm the current president of right now is some of the incentives that we stand behind and support. We have about 35 kids out of the Pompano Beach Elementary School that every Friday they pick up a backpack at an undisclosed room and they bring back food, meaning it could be even like the little mac and cheeses or granola bars. They're bringing some kind of food home for the weekend because we know they're homeless. It's never disclosed to the rest of the students.
Yeah.
But the students know they can go, they get that backpack, they bring food home on the weekends. Also for the middle schools, what we do for the Pompano Beach Middle School is for Thanksgiving, we delivered whole turkeys, all the fixins for about 25 families. And then for the high school level, we get the key clubbers involved with doing volunteer hours, and we help support them. There's an advisor that goes in and once a month or twice a month, they go in and make sure the key club is going along the meeting as it should. And then we also, at the end of the year, when they graduate, we support and we fund a little small scholarship for the students. So like we have I think it's like a $5,000 budget, right? We had 4 students last year, so instead of, cutting it and saying only $1,000 for each student, we did $1,250 for each student so that it was evenly distributed throughout that whole $5,000 budget we could give as a scholarship for them.
We think about children and food insecurity, and we don't normally think of that happening a lot in America. We think
Right.
immediately Africa, we think, all these other countries, but it's incredible just how much food insecurity there is with children
Yeah.
in the United States, in the richest country in the world. How does that happen?
Within Kiwanis, right? We have an event we do every year called Christmas in July. And it was a staggering amount of, we try to get the numbers of how many homeless kids and families that are out there just within the Broward County that we know about. It was over 6,400 homeless in the area last year.
Just in the county, just in
Just
Broward
in
County.
Broward County, 6,400
Children?
children, and that doesn't include any children under the age of 5.
Ugh.
Or any children that they registered saying that they were homeless.
So that's much more than 6,400 then,
Got to
just
be
in
more
that
than
small
6,400.
county.
Yeah.
Wow, that's heartbreaking.
Yep. In that Christmas in July that I mentioned, normally, historically, they've had the big event out there at the Panther Arena. Christmas in July is one day out of the whole year. And it's called Fill in the Backpack with Love. The backpack is filled. You pick up one backpack, you fill it up all the way to the completion, and then you pick up another backpack. It comes with 2 pairs of pants, 2 new shirts, new clean underwear, new clean socks. If the girls, if they need the girls stuff, toiletry items, school items, and then if they're under a certain age, like under the age of 10 years of age, they get even a toy at the end, and they get sneakers too.
Love it. You are the president of the For a Better Day Foundation. You deal with property loss all day, but that foundation deals with mental health and emotional loss. Do you feel like you are essentially a therapist who happens to know building code?
Yeah, I guess so.
If you could put a billboard on I-95 that every single Florida homeowner or anyone in the United States had to read before the next hurricane season starts, what would it say?
Don't fight the insurance company without representation.
Without a public adjuster.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me because it's almost like a David and Goliath story. They almost have no chance except, in the David Goliath story, of course, the myth says, that David beat Goliath. But that's not always the case in real life. More times than not, 9 times out of 10, or even 10 out of 10, it's not the case with these situations with homeowners fighting these giant insurance companies. I saw you posting about deductible buy-down policies. Can you explain what that is to me as if I'm a 10-year-old?
What the insurance agent is doing is offering the homeowner a discount on their policy when they get a higher deductible.
And without getting too nerdy, is that the secret weapon most business owners don't know exists?
I would say it's not a hidden secret. I think, you have to really have a reputable agent and someone that's going to take the time to explain what the discounts are offering. Really need to go into the understanding of what that discount is doing to their policy.
Everyone talks about the Florida insurance crisis. Companies are leaving the state. From where you sit on the FAPIA board, are we actually safer than we were 5 years ago, or is the market collapsing?
I don't think the market is collapsing, but it's definitely more in the corner of the insurance company than the homeowner for sure.
Doesn't surprise me. Corporate sharks and corporate greed come on top.
Yeah, and it's kind of disturbing when they come out with how much money the CEOs are making of some of these insurance companies after the fact.
You are heavily involved in women empowering women, like we talked about earlier. What is the biggest piece of advice you give to young women trying to break into the insurance or construction industry?
Go on social media and check out some of the women empowering women groups. I've met a few within the last year that are so supportive. When I was going through my transition the last few months, I would get text messages and voicemails of encouragement. And it's amazing if you reach out to these women that had to break into the industry for you to lay the groundwork. Again, I'm going to go back to it. I like the book that this one lady, Alexandra, put out, and it's called Show Up Scared. No matter what it is that you do.
One of the best pieces of advice I've heard.
Yep.
People think that you need to show up really confident and unscared. And although that is good advice, it's important to also have that piece with you that is a little insecure, because that insecurity will propel you to do a better job. Wendi, I have one final question we ask every guest. We call this podcast Point of Departure because every new beginning requires an ending. To become the founder you are today, launching Claim Pro services and leading these boards, what is the hardest part of your old self that you had to leave behind?
Security. The unknowing. I was established at a public adjusting firm for 12 years. How do you break yourself away from the company that everyone has been familiar with you working at, right? And then you want to try to break out on your own. You get that sense of insecurity. And I don't know how to break away from it.
So it sounds to me like you're still struggling with that, right, Wendi? Where you had this job over a decade,
Yep.
12 years, and it had all these benefits, you had a lot of job security. But what has been helping you to overcome that insecurity? You mentioned putting your face out there, networking, being known. Is that what keeps you going, that gives you the belief that you will be okay?
Yeah, and I feel like I have a really good support system with all the women groups that I've introduced myself and established within the last year. They're very supportive in a lot of ways. I get phone calls, I get texts, I get cute little voicemails left on my phone with words of encouragement. And I don't want to disappoint the ladies that are supporting me.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to be disappointed
No.
if you were in their position.
Right.
You're very empathetic in that regard.
Right.
Well, Wendi, thank you so much for coming on the show. I didn't expect us to go that deep, and I appreciate you trusting me with everything we talked about.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Don't fight the insurance companies alone. Wendy's direct contact info is on the screen right now. Reach out and get an advocate in your corner today.